We're explaining how to resolve the can't connect to MySQL Server on localhost 161 error on Windows. This error usually means MySQL isn't running or there's a problem with the connection. Let's troubleshoot this step by step. 1. Check if MySQL is running. The most common cause is that the MySQL Server isn't actually running. Open your Windows services. Search for services in the Start menu. Look for MySQL. It might have a more specific name like MySQL 80, depending on your version. If you find it, check its status. If it's stopped, right-click it and select Start. If it's already running, you can try restarting it by right-clicking and selecting Restart. Sometimes services fail to start correctly. If restarting doesn't work, try stopping and starting it again, ensuring there are no error messages. 2. Verify MySQL installation. Make sure MySQL is properly installed. Check your installation directory. The default is usually something like C/program files, MySQL. If you can't find the installation directory, you might need to reinstall MySQL. During the installation process, pay close attention to any error messages. 3. Check the MySQL configuration file, myINI. The myINI file, or myCNF on some systems, contains important settings for MySQL. It's usually located in the data directory within your MySQL installation directory. Open this file with a text editor, like Notepad++. Look for the bind address setting. This setting specifies which IP addresses MySQL listens on. It often defaults to 127.0.0.1, localhost, which is correct for local connections. If it's set to something else, like 0.0.0.0, change it to 127.0.0.1 and restart the MySQL service. Also check the port setting. The default is usually 3306. If it's been changed, make sure your connection attempts use the correct port number. 4. Firewall interference. Windows Firewall can sometimes block MySQL's connection attempts. Open Windows Firewall settings. Search for Firewall in the Start menu. Go to Advanced Settings and then Inbound Rules. Look for rules related to MySQL. If you find any, ensure they allow connections on port 3306 or the port you've configured in myINI. If not, create a new rule to allow inbound connections on this port for MySQL. If you're using a third-party firewall, consult its documentation on how to add an exception for MySQL. Check for conflicting processes. Sometimes other applications might be using port 3306. Open your Task Manager, Ctrl+Shift-ESC, and check the Processes tab. See if any processes are using port 3306. If so, you might need to close those processes before starting MySQL. You can use tools like netstat AB in the command prompt to see which process is listening on specific ports. 6. Reinstall MySQL. If all else fails, consider reinstalling MySQL. A clean reinstallation can often resolve underlying installation problems. Make sure you back up any important MySQL data before doing this. 7. Use the MySQL command line client. Try connecting to MySQL using the command line client. This helps isolate whether the problem is with your client application or the MySQL server itself. Open the command prompt and navigate to your MySQL bin directory, usually something like C/program files MySQL Server 8.0 boal bin. Then type MySQL your username P and press Enter. Replace your username with your MySQL username. You'll then be prompted for your password. If you can connect using the command line, the problem likely lies with your application's connection settings. If you still can't connect via the command line, the problem is almost certainly with the MySQL server itself. After performing any of the above steps, always try to restart the MySQL service before attempting a new connection.